So over on Instagram, someone suggested that I film a video reacting to some old videos, and my mind immediately went to what was my first ever TBR video? Maybe it's also because I just filmed a TBR video, but I just thought to myself, I wonder what was on that first ever TBR video I filmed on this channel, and I wonder if I ever read those books, because I think it's fair to say I don't always read or get to what I set on a TBR. I think that's true of everybody, but did I eventually at least read all the books that I'd set myself up for many years ago? And I mean many years ago, because I've gone back and I have found the first ever TBR video I filmed for my channel. It went live on February the 1st, 2013. So that's more than 7 years ago now, which is so surreal. I was in my 3rd year of my undergraduate degree, and it's really weird to see this. I haven't watched it all the way through yet, but even just the quality, which is 480p filmed on my webcam, is a little bit of a trip, and I thought I would go back, watch it with you guys, and let you know if I read those books, what I thought of them, and just did I read the books on my first ever TBR. So yeah, let's have a watch, shall we? Right. Okay, so I did film this video yesterday, but I don't know where it's gone, like the file, so I'm just going to refilm it. That just seems like the easiest solution to that problem. Yeah, this is my February to be read video. I've never done a to be read video before, so that's exciting. So the proof is in the pudding there, first ever TBR video. Wow, the sound on this is sort of tinny. First is Carpe Jugulum by Terry Pratchett, which I've been reading for like 2 months now. I don't know, I keep putting it down, not because it isn't good, I just don't think I remember reading that book and having spent ages reading it. I have to say that a lot of these early videos in terms of my booktube channel were very much at a stage in my life when I was getting back into reading. So I'd kind of fallen out of the habit of reading in the end of high school, the beginning of university, and it wasn't really until my 2nd year of university that I discovered that people were talking about books on the internet, and only really when I was transitioning from 2nd to 3rd year that I started reading more myself and then getting ready to talk about it on the internet, because I started my channel at the end of 2012. So this was a book that I kind of started in my getting back into reading phase, and because of that it took me ages to read, but I did read it, so 1 for 1 at this point. I finished Carpe Jugulum, I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every Terry Pratchett book I've ever read. But it is really funny, so I think I should get this finished this month, and it is really funny, and I'm halfway through, so I think I should just hurry up and do that. Yes, I do look like a milkmaid. I'm aware of that. Next is on my Kindle, and it is George R.R. Martin's A Clash of Kings, the sequel to Game of Thrones. Definitely going, I might not finish this month, but I'm definitely going to read a substantial amount of it. I am 150 pages in, and I think it's about 750 pages, but I am going on a plane journey to Athens, and it's 4.5 hours there and 4.5 hours back. Oh, Athens, that was a lot of fun, that trip, but I can assure you now I did not finish A Clash of Kings. Again, this was one that I remember taking a really long time to read, and I was still reading that book during revision period, or at least like my essay writing period of that year of university, which is like a good like month or 2 later than when I filmed this video. So I didn't finish this book in February. It took me ages to read Clash of Kings, like ages. I feel like I was reading that book for over a year. I can't remember precisely, but I remember it taking me the longest time to read. And I was enjoying parts of it, and I've talked about my experience with Game of Thrones before, but it was such a slog to read because the bits I enjoyed were so few and far between that I would then take ages reading the chapters of the characters I wasn't interested in. So that was one of the main reasons I gave up after book 3, because I don't have time for that and I don't care enough. But I did read that book, so 2 for 2. That's plenty of time, since I'm only taking my Kindle to make some headway on that book. Once I finish those, or at least read a substantial amount of Game of Thrones, I'm going to read Elijah's Mermaid. I started this last night. I wasn't sure what to read. I was like, do I read Seraphina? Do I read Time to Spell the Roses? But I just, you know that sort of feeling, you feel like you want to read a specific book, and this was the one that I really wanted to read.
So it barely even feels like I'm watching myself. This feels like a different person almost. It's kind of surreal. But I did read Elijah's Mermaid, so I'm feeling like this video is quite satisfying for me, at least at this point, because I have read all these books I said I was going to read. I don't know if that's just because I was better at committing to books back then, or I had less books to choose from, so it was easier to set a TBR, or just because it has been 7 years and maybe I didn't read all of these books immediately after filming this TBR, but got around to them eventually, thankfully. Elijah's Mermaid is a historical fiction novel set in Victorian England. It deals with like hysteria and the seedy underbelly of London, and it was really great, a bit of a mystery there, and it was a book I very much enjoyed.
I think I will read this month as well. Then I've got a couple of books that I have to read for university, so yeah. I have to read 3 Euripides plays. This is a collection of 4, and it is Medea, Hippolytus, Electra and Helen. I have to read Medea, Hippolytus and Helen. I've already read Medea before, but I am going to reread it just because it's been about a year and it's for class, you know, it's good to actually read what they tell you to.
Wise words there. So again, I did read all 3 of those because they were for class. I was like pretty good at reading my required books and texts for university, but interestingly enough, having that collection of 4 plays on my shelf, I still have never read Euripides Electra. I've read Sophocles Electra, but never Euripides Electra. So I read those 3 plays, including my reread of Medea. I read Helen and Hippolytus, and I love Helen. It's one of my favourite ancient Greek tragedies, but still have never got around to Electra, and maybe that's something I should set my mind to, and then I'll have read that whole collection as Oxford University Press decided to put them together.
A book that's not really for, well, it's not like a university assignment, but I'm working on dissertation proposal at the moment, and my topic, and partly for recreational purposes, partly for more background for my dissertation, I am going to read Xenophon of Ephesus's Anthea and Hebracoms, which is an ancient Greek novel, so prose, which is nice because I like prose.
Dissertation proposal. Now that feels like a lifetime ago. I did read Xenophon of Ephesus, Anthea and Hebracoms. It very, very much did not play a large role in my dissertation. I'm still glad I read it, and I feel I was trying to understand that genre of literature more in depth and in detail. So it did serve that function, if that makes sense, but I didn't necessarily bring the book specifically into my dissertation or quote from it. My dissertation ended up being solely on Longus' Daphnis and Chloe and Achilles Theseus' Leucippe and Cleitophon, which are 2 of the 5 ancient Greek novels, and then the other 3 only really came up in footnotes if it was really, really relevant. But I think at this point I maybe was planning on writing on all of the ancient Greek novels, and I did read that book. It's super boring. It's the worst ancient Greek novel. Pretty much everybody in classics that's read the ancient Greek novels agrees on that. It has not survived because of its quality, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend reading it.
And I would also like to catch back up on the Fritz Basket manga series. I have definitely read volume 9. I can't remember if I've read volume 10. I own up to volume 15, but I know I never finished them.
So this is really funny because I very recently talked about both Game of Thrones and Fritz Basket in my video where I reviewed the 10 highest rated books I'd read, and Fritz Basket was also on that list. It's a manga series, and I read the first, say, 9 volumes or so when I was a teenager, and then, like I said, I didn't read so much near the end of high school, beginning of university, and around this time I decided to go back and finish the series. And not only did I read those volumes 9 and 10, I did finish the series, and I finished the series in the next few months after this because I remember reading them during that exam season, and they were such like escapist, easy reading throughout that period that I zoomed through them all in between, like manically studying for my exams. Looking back on that time, I remember how stressed I was, and that stress was for a good reason. I mean, it was a lot of hard work, but at the same time, gosh, it was so nice to be an undergraduate student and to have that kind of like sense of purpose and that be the kind of sole focus of your entire life. And plus that was the time that I started BookTube, so it was a pretty awesome like period.
If you're looking for like a starter manga, I think Fritz Basket is a really good one to start with. I really like Fritz Basket, and there's also an anime, which is quite a nice anime. I guess that's it actually. Those are the books I'm planning on reading this month. Let me know if you've read these books, like I said, and also let me know what you're reading this month.
That was kind of surreal. I'm just so much younger, and it's such early days of BookTube here that it's so interesting to look back on. But in terms of the reading, I've read all those books, which is kind of awesome that my first ever TBR video, I have read all the books from. I don't know, there's something about that I feel is quite pleasing from my perspective. Other than that, I'm not really sure what there is to say. Let me know if you have been here since the beginning, were you around in February 2013 watching BookTube, watching my channel. That would be so interesting to hear, because I was just so much younger back then, which I guess is what you would expect from a video of 7 years old. So yeah, I'm gonna go now. That was a little bit fun and nostalgic. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys.